Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. It's all about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we're going to be talking about the newest album from Sundy titled Salvation City. In early March of this year, I reviewed the sophomore release of the Kentucky country duo Sundy titled Bring Up the Sun. And to say I liked it might be a bit of an understatement. In short, the record had a ton of energy, great melodic hooks, and a newfound lyrical maturity from their debut that grounded it and helped make it one of my favorite country records of the entire year, bar none. I love the use of the cajon for the percussion, I love the snarled guitars and the organ, and I really dug how deeply Sundy were able to push their minimalist sound into something organic and riotous and really powerful. In short, one of my favorite albums thus far this year, highly recommended. Well, apparently the rest of the world actually started paying attention, because Sundy started getting some real traction. The biggest features coming courtesy of Rolling Stone's new country division. People started paying attention to Sundy beyond, well, alternative country fans and critics. And really, it couldn't have come at a better time. After all, considering that Dan and Shay never really caught fire and the Swan brothers have struggled to maintain relevance after The Voice, we could definitely use a real good country duo to give Florida Georgia Line some real competition, just saying. But you know what? I gotta be honest here, I was worried about this release. I said back when I reviewed Rick Ross's Hood Billionaire that I get an uneasy feeling when artists feel the need to drop 2 albums of unique original material in the same year, especially when the first release was as good as Bring Up the Sun was. Sundy has set a really high bar for themselves, and considering they were moving away from the cajon to a full drum kit again, I was concerned they might lose some of their original unique sound in favor of maintaining their hype or possibly making a mainstream breakthrough. That said, with every release, Sundy has gotten better, and Bring Up the Sun was a damn strong record, so I owe them at least enough to check this out. So, with Salvation City, were they able to match their hype? Well, no. And believe me, as a fan of these guys, I hate saying that because I get that Salvation City is trying to do a very different thing than Bring Up the Sun. I get that. That album was rougher, angrier, had a lot more exposed edges, where Salvation City is a bigger, broader experience, is a lot more lightweight, not as dramatic, made for just kicking back and having fun. I get that. And yet, believe me, I don't want to say this, but I'm sorry, it's not as good. Now let me stress that it is still a good album, but Sundy has it within them to make great albums. And even though there is some more of the genre-pushing elements that I did really like about their previous album, here on Salvation City, it just doesn't land as well, at least for me. So let's ask the question why. And the place we need to start is in the instrumentation and the production. Now, I was concerned right out of the gate with the replacement of the cajon with the drum kit, and while I do miss it somewhat for the propulsive, riotous energy that it brought to the table, forcing the band to innovate with their guitar tones in order to balance the mix properly, the drum work here is pretty damn well for what the record is trying to do instead. It's a lighter, breezier sound, and to Sundy's real credit, they do manage to squeeze a fair amount of instrumental flourishes and change-ups onto this album, especially in the choice of their guitar tone. I like the interweaving acoustic and clipped electric tone on Shotgun Lady, the solid melodic hook on Distance, the heavier fuzz on Fishin' that remind me a lot of a Drive-By Truckers song, and the rollicking chug on Do You Wanna Go. Hell, even though I didn't really like My Sweet Thing, the bluesy guitar tones fluttering across the mix were enough to save it. And that's not touching on the organ flourishes and some pretty solid strings production all across this record. In other words, this is the perfect recipe for good country music, at least for me. And you know what? That's why it's such a damn shame that the production doesn't manage to carry the weight. I don't know if this was rushed or this was intentional, but it's a little bit shocking how much warmth and personality was lost with this production, particularly in some of the vocals. And it's mostly just little things. The vocals feeling a little bit too far back in the mix, or the multi-tracking feeling a little bit shaky. But then we get songs like Distance, where the very obvious pitch correction on the backing vocals just feels completely out of place. And then it comes up again on My Sweet Thing, easily the worst song on the album, which feels like Sundy follow-up to Noia from Bring Up the Sun, making a bro country flavored song, and it's easily the most stiff and clumsy song on the entire record. And there are other places where it feels a little bit off too. I respect the intentions behind I Want You to Know, world famous love song, with a great prominent guitar lick at the back half of the mix, and the spacious organs and the incredibly lightweight strings, trying to create more of that psychedelic country vibe that I like, especially with some of the vocal effects. But you know what? It feels a lot more like Sturgill Simpson light and lacks some of the real texture to really grip me all that much. And now we come to the songwriting. And look, I get that Sundy were aiming to do something very different with this album, something more lightweight and fun. And it definitely helps matters that they are good songwriters with a good self-deprecating sense of humor that can really work for them, especially on songs like Piece of Work. Their honest framing has always been one of their greatest assets, and their complete sincerity makes songs like Southern Boy, the pretty damn good love song Four Door that reworked Dina Carter's Strawberry Wine melody to something that's pretty damn good, and my favorite song, Get Back Home to You. They work pretty damn well. Good songs. Hell, when they choose to write songs with more of a story, you get tracks like Distance, a track about retrying a relationship when they rushed things the first time, and they're now taking it slow and giving each partner more space, which is a pretty good sentiment, one I can definitely get behind. And hell, these guys are at some of their best with the Springsteen-esque exuberance on tracks like Do You Wanna Go, another good song, really liked it. But you know what, the more I listen through Salvation City, the more I realize why it just wasn't clicking in the same way for me. There really wasn't any real dramatic stakes on this album. You're not getting tracks like These Days, or Lily, or Painted Blue, or Mean Old Woman here. Those quieter, darker moments that could have grounded this album. Now, granted, Bring Up the Sun, it was a more serious release, but it had its lightweight moments too on songs like Swarpin', but we don't even really get many songs in that vein either. Some of the rough edges on Sunday Best might crop up in some of the songwriting, but maybe it's a factor of the tempo being a little too slow, or the lack of the cajon, or the real explosive power that's kind of missing in their riffs, but there isn't that balance on Salvation City between the real dark side and the light side. And even saying consistently lightweight, there isn't the same energy or wildness that I really liked. It's telling that one of the most rough, snarled, fast-paced songs on this album is Fishin', which is about as sedentary of an activity as you can possibly get. And here's the thing, I'm not even surprised by this change, because this was, in principle, the very same thing that Jason Eady did in 2012 with AM Country Heaven. A smoother, more mainstream accessible listen that caught a little bit of traction, but not quite enough, which then prompted him to make one of the best records of his career, one of the best of this year with Daylight and Dark. I'm expecting a similar progression with Sunday Best and Salvation City, which, believe it or not, is still a good album despite how hard I was on it. The production feels a little bit rushed and probably could have afforded to be a little bit rougher and darker, but you know what? It's still a solid release that'll probably win over that mainstream audience, and it's enough for me to give it a solid 7 out of 10. Not their best record by any stretch, but still solid quality, and I'm hoping that Sunday Best keep experimenting and gaining traction. We could definitely use more guys like them. So go check this out. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. Coming up on the end of the year, so if there's any albums you want me to cover before the end of the year, mention them in the comments below. Otherwise, what do you guys think of this album? Do you think it was as good as Bring Up the Sun? Just a little bit weaker? Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious here. If there's anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm also all ears. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.